In the title of your book, it's The Power of Recognition. In the description, there's also mention of the pitfalls. Can we talk about the other side of the coin on where maybe there's a downside in this time where, as you mentioned, we definitely need to connect more. We need to find ways to connect with our teams. What is the other side of this coin where we may actually hurt the productivity or the inspiration that we're hoping to achieve?
If we don't pay attention to this, and if we don't, as leaders nowadays in our current situation, really connect and really build relationships with employees, I don't think we ever will. I like to give the example that while we all have this expectation that people at the top need to be giving praise and recognition to people, further down the organization, it needs to go up too, and sideways too, and that's really key. We've seen in the past risk averse and bureaucratic organizations, and I contend that risk averse and bureaucratic organizations are all based on fear. If we're afraid to say something, if we're afraid to throw out an idea, if we're afraid to confront or disagree, and we may lose our job, or we may be criticized, or we may be penalized, that is not going to open a culture of creativity or innovation. So I think now is a great time for us to really try to capitalize on our current situation and do more of that than ever before.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and that actually goes right into what I wanted to ask you next. You mentioned your wife and how you've written a number of books with her. I imagine that innovation has to start with you, and it has to start at home. And I wanted to ask how you've really found success, not just in your professional life, but how it really comes back into your personal life as well, where you can create an entire ecosystem of that culture to make yourself and the people around you successful.
Yeah, that's such a great question because it really does all integrate together. And let me give you a couple of examples. We have three boys. They're all doing great. One is a doctor at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. One is an executive. He's been 10 years at Google. And another is a writer and a podcaster. When they were all like 8 or 9 or 10 or 11 years old, we had them identify their own personal values. And we talked a lot about family values and individual values. And I think that's something that has stayed with them, because we would talk about it kind of every year and all the time. So you talk about personal values, you talk about organizational values, with every job interview, when we have somebody interview at Chicago Innovation or Kuczmarski Innovation, I will ask that person, what are your values? And often the response I'll get will be, oh, I've never been asked that question before. What do you mean? And I'll go, well, what are your beliefs? What are your values? Or I'll get, oh, well, do you mean my personal values or my professional values? And I'll say, yes, yeah. Just tell me your values. So I think that's one example of it. I think another is this whole concept that Susan and I have written about from a leadership standpoint. Oh, by the way, I've just got to tell you, of my between the two, she's written 6 books and I've written 8 books, and between the two of us, one of hers is absolutely the bestseller of any book that I've written or any of that we've co-authored together. It's called the best-selling book that she's got is called The Sacred Flight of the Teenager: A Parent's Guide to Stepping Back and Letting Go. And it's all about how parents of teenagers need to deal with that and how to behave and how to cope with it, and some great tips on how to handle that. But I think what I was going to say is that our concept of peopleship is also at least part of our own family mindset, and that is that it's not about parents, it's not about kids, it's not about CEOs, it's not about employees. It's about a group of people living and working together toward a common goal. And I think that's the concept of peopleship as opposed to leadership.
That is such an amazing word. I really love that word. I want to ask you about advice that you would have for the next generation, not just of leaders or managers, but for everyone, for
Sure.
the entrepreneur, for the writer, for the doctor, for everybody. What's the advice that you have? Because innovation is important for the success of everyone's lives.
I've got two answers for you. The first is I am such a always strong believer that if you want to be innovative and creative and come up with new services, products, business models, pivots, ideas, et cetera, you have to go out and talk to customers, consumers, employees. You have to go out and understand their problems, issues, and needs and listen to those. It's not about sitting in your office or cubicle or bedroom or kitchen or wherever we work today by ourselves. You have to start by understanding what the challenges and problems and worries and pain points are in order to then come up with solutions. But the advice I would have is to also understand people across generations. And I'm talking about chronological age generations. I'm talking about millennials getting to know baby boomers. I'm talking about Gen X getting to know the silent generation. I'm talking about getting to know all of those and stop our age segregation. You know, we still, ageism is one of those biases that I contend these days is kind of still overlooked. But it's there. And ageism both ways. Younger people perceiving older people as being, not tech savvy, or lots of different perceptions. And older people also ageism for younger people. Oh, well, those millennials, or and we all have so much to learn from each other and to benefit from each other. And I think younger people and older people need to learn from each other. And I think that's a key advice I'd give you.
Well, thank you very much. Tom, we're right at the mark here, but this has been an extraordinary conversation. I'm so appreciative about the comment that you made about peopleship and pluralism and how we really need to find a way to come back to each other in this time of, I guess, challenge, which is only going to inspire a new wave of innovation and creativity. But this has been a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. And
terrific. My pleasure.
thank you so much.
Thank you.